famous for hit songs like Shona Phansi, and they're managed by Mama Winnie Mandela's daughter, Zinzi Mandela. The group remembers the days and times from yesteryear, and members are paying tribute through song and their personal experiences. We have the privilege of having in studio Tebogo Sitatu, Leslie Sitatu, Nhlanhla Shabangu, and Lucky Shabangu. Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us, albeit on such a sad occasion. And I must just put in context that I know you guys when you're probably like 12. But that's a discussion for another day. Yes. So tell us about, the hiatus that you guys had in the media industry and how all of it had now culminated with Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. How did this relationship start? I'll start with you, like your own.
Well, thank you for having us.
It's because I can't tell you apart.
No, it's okay. Thank you for having us in the studio. Mama is one person that has impacted our lives in the most remarkable way. We've known Mama for, I think, over 25 years. So, yeah, just about that. Picked us up when we were very young, I think in the early 90s. Identified our talent and said, look, you boys, I see great potential in you. I would love to invest in you. She took us, by the hand. Wherever she was speaking, we would be there to sing the national anthem when even it was, at the time, it was not even changed. And obviously, over the years, then, after a while, we disintegrated, from the music business. So we've been just discussing, there's a dialogue that we've been having for a while. And last week, her name, came up amongst ourselves, and we said she needs to be part of that discourse, as we are busy, discussing the legacy of twins and the impact that we've made in the music industry. So today, when we heard the news, it was absolutely, devastating for us, and we couldn't believe. I'm still in shock, actually.
It is surreal. I mean, when you speak to a lot of people, it's as if, you were wishing it was fake news, that somebody will come back and retract the statement. Unfortunately, the reality is that we have indeed lost a hero, a warrior, a kawe. Leslie, you can talk us through, maybe let's take it back for some of those that are born, I'm born free, they may not know Shona Phansi. If a person doesn't know Shona Phansi, they're too young for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so talk us through your comeback, so to speak, and what was happening in between. What had been that catalyst that brought you guys back together?
That's still ongoing. Discussions are, we're still talking about it, and yes, there is that intent and that willingness from every one of us. There's a plan being hashed, but I think Deborah will be able to articulate it.
You had always been the shy one.
Still is.
But you guys still, you look great, by the way.
Thank you.
And
so do you.
Oh, bless you. By God's grace, that you're able to relive and experience that passion, because music is about a ministry of sorts as well. So, you and I have bumped into each other on and off. You've been involved in business, and like you can also talk to that. What happens when the music stops to play, so to speak? What happened in between?
Yeah, thanks, Cindy, and good evening to the viewers at home. I think first of all, let's pay our deepest, sincerest condolences to the family for the passing of Mama Winnie, and to the ANC and the nation at large. She's such a great loss, and she will be sorely missed in our midst. So when the music stops playing, sadness reigns. So music should not stop. And I think, the fact that we are together today after many years on the same platform as the twins, and what brought us together is this discussion around Mama Winnie, which we only had last week, by the way, as we were hatching up our plan to make a comeback or a contribution, or to kind of remind people of the historical impact that the twins had, because of more often than not, I think people do forget that we were pioneers. But I want us to focus on Mama Winnie and the impact that she has had on us. And I'm sure there's a lot of things happening in the music industry, and her, sort of her powerful presence and her fighting spirit. We want that to remind us of what still needs to be done so that the music does not stop playing.
And I mean, I'm reminded of encounters I had with Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. The one thing you didn't do was to misrepresent her or even try to paraphrase what she had said. Because, I mean, she spoke truth to power. She didn't take any nonsense, said it like it is, no matter how uncomfortable. And that's a trait that one should value in living your authentic voice and life.
Yeah, certainly.
If you want to
certainly, and trying to run away from controversy. I think you know, Mama Winnie spent so much of her time with Tata Madiba, and we've had the privilege of interacting with them. So personally, when I looked at the recent stories about what was happening, I personally think that Tata Madiba could have actually, you know, given her that status in terms of the will and how things panned out. But that's left for another day. But I think she needs to be celebrated. More songs need to be sung around her, and I think she needs to continue to inspire all of us, young and old, in terms of what work still needs to be done.
And you're quite right in saying our condolences to the family and the remaining survivors, if you like. The issue is around, we tend to own the personality, you know, as a newsmaker, as a stalwart icon, and forgetting that they are loved ones that look at her as ugogo or umakhulu. There is a daughter or children that are looking up, you know, that have lost a mother. So how was the family doing?
I haven't been in contact with any of the family members. I actually learned from my brothers about this tragic loss. I think we are going to make way to go and visit the family just to pay our last respects and extend our condolences. Other than that, what I want to emphasize on that she's been one who's been very much vociferous in us being professional in most instances, and she was one who was a true exponent of the arts. You know, she's one person who was a driving force behind our success. Many people don't even know this, that at one point when we struggled with financing our album, she actually paid for it, for the recording of the album. And she and her daughter, Zinzi Mandela. So it is a great loss to us, and she's the one person who's always, you know, encouraged us, even when she introduced us to the old man, Tata Mandela, and we had the privilege of sitting down with him and engaging with him. I think most of these elements will come up as the president has said about what is to come with regards to the twins' future.
I mean, you know, South Africa, of course, is a tale of two cities, in not only economically, but in our political perspective and lived experiences. Do you think that the story of Mama Winnie Mandela has been told in how, can you just imagine having a whole regime against you based on, for no other apparent reason, but that you carry the name Mandela, and you want to see meaningful change for the majority of the people whose rightful birthplace is this very country? Do you think that story is told adequately?
No, not enough. I don't. In all honesty, I mean, there's been a number of movies been done about Winnie Mandela. I don't think that they got the kind of international stature that they should have if you started at that point. And here at home, domestically, you know, it is such a sad case indeed to see that we don't celebrate her as much as we ought to. You know, she's slowly being shifted or removed from the annals of history. And, you know, she's not venerated as she's supposed to be venerated. And I think, you know, one has the privilege of traveling the continent. And it's amazing the kind of respect that a lot of these African countries and the whole international community confers towards her. And here at home, I think it's been a travesty, you know, in all honesty, a travesty of justice that we have never, you know, given her the respect, you know, that she deserves. Yes, in certain quarters within the ANC, you know, and other places she's respected, but I don't think that the broader society, you know, and South Africa still remains to be racially polarized. So there's some sectors of the racial group that doesn't, you know, respect Mama Winnie as she ought to be respected. So I think that's one thing that has to be corrected, more especially now that she has passed on.
But it's understood or understandable, though, that, you know, because she agitated so much for equality, for land expropriation without compensation. At one point even lamenting the concessions that were made in 1994 with CODESA, that we essentially sold out to our oppressor, who never even apologize for the atrocities. So it's understandable that certain sectors of society, be it white, just for the purpose of this exercise, would not have the same reverence that we have of her.
Well, she was inconvenient for their cause. Unfortunately in South Africa, people want to, celebrate you because of you give them something. But Mama Winnie played a role, and I think she also played a critical role to kind of unite the further left to still be in the ANC. She spoke some sense into that. I mean, look at Julius. Julius, we grew up together. He was a young man growing up with us, but Mama Winnie managed that he should not be completely alienated from the ANC. And one of her wishes was for Juju to come back, which is not to be, but it shows the kind of mother figure she has been. But also she passes on at a very critical time. You're talking about her legacy. Look at the movies that we do. We don't believe in our own talent. We always, these are American brothers, but we need to believe in ourselves. Actors, actresses could be telling the real story. Let us tell our own story. So I think creators out there should be thinking about ideas of how to tell the true story of Mama Winnie and stop faking stuff. But also it happens at a critical time when she's been a freedom fighter, a fighter for rights. Look, isn't it that we want to come back as the twins, as a group, but how is the music industry today? Is it really paying off to be an artist today? So we need to be reminded of such critical questions without deviating from celebrating Mama Winnie.
And I think you're quite right as you're saying that she had been the patron of the arts. And I mean, these are conversations we had 5-10 years ago in how we're an extension of, be it a Europe or America. There isn't an authentic South African sound, so to speak. And even if it is, it sits on platforms that are not necessarily diverse enough for a cross-cultural exercise to take place. So Leslie, your view and how the twins coming back together, that conversation is concluded, by the way. You're now on national television, making a declaration and pronouncement that you're getting back together. How are you going to change things?
Just to add before Leslie says something, we've been doing live shows for the past 2 years or so, but now we just want to quantify, the brand itself for a great comeback.
And that's wonderful.
Yeah, for me, I think it should be more on a developmental role because I think we've been there, done that. Then how do we take that experience and expertise and groom others? Because when you're young, you want to achieve certain things, but when you grow up, you get to a point where it no longer is that important. You want to see others reach further than what you could have reached, that type of thing. So, but I think on a memory of Mama Winnie, myself, I remember her tone during the TRC, just to debate a little bit, and I think she was a real person. Sometimes people talk, but within the tone, there's you can pick up whether they they resent you, they don't respect you, that type of thing. I remember one particular incident where she said, "Don't talk to me like that," and I think she was a real person and she didn't want to buy faces. She had you can pretend she had own mistakes and whatever, but who's perfect after all?
All right, we also have another guest, Ubheki Radebe, an entrepreneur and spokesperson for Transform RSA. Bheki, thanks so much for your time. And just, again, condolences to the Mandela and Madikizela family. Tell us your personal experiences having engaged with Mama Winnie Mandela.
Cindy, good morning and good evening to the viewers. I think it's a very sad day for South Africa. All of us were caught unaware for losing a gallant and a fighter of our people. But my contribution on Mama would say, we can say a lot of things about her, but we want his involvement in the struggle not to be deleted or to be edited, to be writing as it is. And also that children growing up should learn about Mama Winnie. And the people who are clear and have a direct contact with Mama should be the people who write the history. We wouldn't want history of Mama to be written from overseas. And we would wish that it could be portrayed here. But yeah, my interaction with her, it was last year on a birthday at Vilakazi Street. I was asked to do certain things, officially her own name on national TV. She's a leader, she fought for this country. On my way, people send videos where she confront apartheid and racism, hands-on, and her being a woman, it should be alluded and be celebrated. Because a lot of women, I think she could have chosen to, as beautiful as she is, she could chosen to do modeling and become Miss World. She could continue with her social work as a first black social activist, but she chose the struggle. So we are free today. We embrace the freedoms that we have. This constitution that we celebrate today, it's one because of her contribution. But there's a lot of things that we will talk about that we think that we need to go back and revisit, particularly on entrepreneurship, the lack of support of young people, non-participation of business, there's racism that we still see happening. So the imbalances of economic space, we need to really, for her, try to look at those issues and address. So Mama Winnie remains a hero, I was just listening to one of the twin brothers, of which I will echo also as an ANC member, that I feel that we need to celebrate her more. Yes, we have celebrated her, but I feel there is much needs to be done for Mama. He has groomed about Julius Malema, he has done a lot. So in overseas movies are done by her. She has contributed, and he has also asked Uti in movie yake be writing in a way that is truthful. So this gives a space to arts. I would think about Siloma Mngube are watching, and producers, particularly black producers, who can produce a movie about Mama Winnie and use our stars who are here in South Africa and the artists who must embrace life of Winnie Mandela. I think she's a leader that the country needs not to forget in these trying times.
All right, Peggy, just stay with us. We continue in studio with the twin brothers. We have Teboho and Leslie Sitatu, Ntlantla and Lucky Shabangu. The legacy of Mama Mandela, I want to talk to you through her children. If you take Zinzi Mandela, I think it was in the mid-80s, age 16, full capacity crowd at Orlando Stadium, addressing the crowd on what her father had decided, that he will remain in prison until all other political parties were unbanned. Just the magnitude, you know, as a single mom, the hardships that she's had, but still being able to raise children that not only would fend for themselves, but would themselves become global icons.
Certainly. Uzinzi reminded me of Mama Winnie all the time. She was like Z carbon copy. And Uzenani, more like the father. You know, it's like me, the shy one.
Look at you being modest here.
So I think it's you know, these things you are born with them. I mean, for her at the tender age to stand in front of those crowds and say, my father said, you know, it was bold. And young women of today, I wish we could see those kind of powerful women coming out, not just looking for blessers. Please, young women out there.
And that fortitude and fearlessness. I mean, you know, it takes a special kind of a leader. And again, notwithstanding what the circumstances were, there was a real threat that you could be shot just by appearance, based on your skin color, let alone your revolutionary activities. So, Leslie,
just to elucidate, just a second, just to elucidate on what Teboho has said, and just to draw inference from umama or draw a parallel of some sort between umama and Winnie and Uzinzi and Uzenani, Zolega, and the grandchildren.
Uswazi.
You know, I saw the spirit Gamama more on Zolega. Very kind-hearted. Zolega is one kind-hearted person, very shy. Mama was a very shy person. People don't know that.
Very.
She was very shy, but when you bring her in front of the crowds, she becomes something else. And Uzinzi, similarly, she was like that. But when she's in, she's amongst people, she's the life of the party. She's the most spoken. Whereas Uzenani was very quiet.
Yeah, like
so I miss those moments that we used to interact with them. After office hours, after work, they will always throw parties at their house. Zins will throw parties at her house. And Mama will come there, and Mama will just dance like nobody's business. I remember one song of ours that she used to love with her heart.
Yes.
She would even, because part of that song had that. So she'd be the one who with her own totems, which was a beautiful thing. So those are the things that one will always miss about Mama, and miss about that family. What an awesome family they are,
And just to chip in on that, or add on that, the fact that Zinzi and her father were so close, even though he was in prison, it shows that father and daughter relationship, that bond that is never nurtured, amongst black fathers. I hope we can take a leap of faith and learn from that, as black fathers, and just say, this is what we can emulate. We can emulate the same acts or deeds that father, Dada did, when it comes to his daughters or children, for that matter.
Even if you're not biologically related, by the way, because we know that of Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, I suppose the family in itself had become a beacon of hope for the communities, or a place of refuge, or whatever other assistance was required. So people would gravitate to the Mandelas. They were political royalties together with the Sisulus, etc. Interestingly enough, Umama dies in the centenary of Nelson Mandela. It happens to be Easter Monday. You can add all these symbolism and put it into the stature of who Winnie Mandela is.
Certainly. I think you want to add on?
Yeah. I think in the light of the racism that's happening now, we do need a tone. I think she's a reminder that we need somebody to be speaking against, because I think racism is an evil thing. It's barbaric, and I think South Africans are very soft on racism. I think for me, even the government, I think the recent case was well handled. I think people do belong in jail. Because it remains with individuals now. But an uncompromising voice, tone that will speak against that. And I'm not. We have to do our part as well. I'm not saying, okay, somebody should do it. I think.
You're saying in terms of social cohesion, let's take what in the times of Mama Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, where it wasn't necessarily an approach to say, let's unite and come together. It was highlighting the atrocities of apartheid at the hands of a white Afrikaner regime. It wasn't necessarily reconciliatory, it was confrontational because the issues had to be dealt with. Peggy, maybe you can come in here, that the tone needs to change, as Leslie's saying, in how we deal with the issues of inequality, and maybe it's the radicalism that we're seeing right now. Hi, Peggy.
Hi, Cindy. I'm here.
Yeah. So you're saying the radicalism trajectory that we seem to be taking as a country is the way to deal with injustices and inequality?
Cindy, it is, you see, it's still Easter Monday. So some of us who went to the night vigils, we are still shocked. But we need to sit and look at the history in terms of what has happened, what have we achieved, what is it that the country that we can be proud of since this democratic dispensation that happened from 1994. There are still a lot of outstanding issues that are there, particularly the exclusion of the marginalized African people. We need to ask, what did Mama Winnie fought for? And whatever that they fought for, is it achieved? Have we come to the sense that when we sit and say what are the achievements that we can say and celebrate? So using her as an icon, because I think she was not fighting only for her family, she was fighting for the rest of the country, and that's why we celebrate her. That is why you find now in Soweto people are excited, and many people and other guests are still going to come and contribute about the things that we did. But the achievements that we have made, or the strides that we have done, are that we have fought for a non-racial society. We have fought for the inclusion of everybody in South Africa. We have done much. So Winnie Mandela's emblem should be a stature for the next generation and for our kids. But the point I want to make, where is important, because history of Mama Winnie is there for Onkumuntu Aibone to see. It's where that young people who are engulfed in the more non-African ways of doing things, it has to remind us of who we are as African people, and how do we start to go back and look at our culture and embrace it and love it. Mama Winnie, to me personally, tells me that I'm an African. I need to embrace that. I live in a country. I have to be patriotic about the country. We still have to have more voices. I need to participate in the debate and the discourse of the country. I need not to fold my arms. I need to use the achievements that they have conquered for us to have a voice and speak. We need not to fear to engage, even in uncomfortable issues. I'm happy at how the music industry has evolved. When I sit here and look at our twins, I was still studying in Matwaleni that time, when they sing the corner. I know them, we'll talk after here. But I'm saying that from that time until now, we have to look, what is it that we have achieved? The music industry has been successful. We have produced millionaires in the music industry, about DJ Tira, about Black Coffee, who are celebrated internationally. That's what we need to have in terms of the culture. So when I look at music industry and Kwaito and hip hop, I get excited because it's the guys that from a township, they represent us and they make their life better. But when I look at business and the economy, and in terms of the confidence of the black masses, I worry, because now I see where the exclusion is. So that's why I say, for now, I'll celebrate music. But more than that, we need to celebrate entrepreneurship. We need to celebrate black excellence. We need to celebrate Black Coffee. We need to celebrate Kagiso Rabada. We need to celebrate the things that we have produced. So Mama Winnie says to me, I must not forget about myself. He has struggled. He was sent to Free State. He was house arrest. What does it say to me and my generation and the kids coming after? It says we have to confront racism. We have to fight what is right for us. It says that death or alive, we need to fight for what is right.
I couldn't have said it any better. Earlier on we had a reaction from a neighbor who was saying what every time the police came to arrest Mama Winnie, she would stand her own to the point where the police would be intimidated. And it landed her in trouble because now they retaliated with even more brutality and force against a woman who's not armed, who was protecting her children. Nonetheless, for the youth going forward, if we don't have the fearlessness, the steadfast nature of a Winnie Madikizela-Mandela, we crumble under a tear gas, which shouldn't happen in democratic South Africa, but those are things that we're confronted with. How do you fight a struggle without the unintended consequences of loss that you yourself may suffer, be it, you have to make sacrifices in order for society to advance?
Cindy,
do we have that caliber?
You don't go to a struggle without the risk of losing nothing. When you go into any struggle, you must be prepared to be hated, to be attacked. You must be prepared, you must go in wholeheartedly. And I think we need to take a leaf out of Mama Winnie's life because of she was not scared of anybody. I mean, you know how scary it was for an Afrikaner police soldier or board to actually arrest you, and because of you had no rights. They would do anything, they could kill you, and nobody would would care. So I think it's important that even with ANN7, you need to take the leaf out of that. I mean, Mama Winnie was never apologetic. So you want to stop censorship, media freedom. So the ANN7, look, we're here. If ANN7 was shut tomorrow, we would not be here. So of all the media houses, it's ANN7 that thought of calling the twins because of the relationship we had with Mama Winnie. So all I'm saying is that we need to fight for our own sectors in every way and not be amagwala. Finish and plan.
And when you fight, it doesn't necessarily demean or undermine the other races.
Absolutely.
You understand? So when the Black Revolution, when we talk about challenges facing Black business, the barriers to entry, the policies in themselves, and the rigidity thereof, it does not mean that we're necessarily saying the other race groups.
Yeah. Well, what happens in most times when someone lacks engaging material, they then resort to other means, which is violence, because they can see that they cannot engage with you and they cannot come out from a dialogue that you are engaged in. So it's unfortunate that we come from a racial past, which people still, they don't deem it fit that we can sit down and have a proper dialogue, because I don't think anyone was born racist or anyone was born to fight. So these things happen as, they just happen, and we need to challenge them because they face us. We cannot just fold our eyes and turn a blind eye and fold our arms rather, and allow them to do as they please. We will have to stand up at some point and not live a perpetual life of begging.
Yeah, but at what cost then to your own personal character and your circle of people that you trust, your family, your children? One of the quotes from Mama Winnie Mandela was that if you are attacked, and I paraphrase, I know I shouldn't, bless us all, is that if you are attacked on a daily, and violence is meted against you as a woman, you unarmed, and with the level of brutality and harshness, you will be hardened. That her heart at some point, it becomes so hardened, pelotata, like you lack that compassion, and your life is essentially now something that you would sacrifice. Did you find that at some point she would talk about those kind of deep, dark, not resentment, but the kind of turmoil that she may have had?
I think from time to time it did, come out. But she's one person who never liked to speak about her pain. She would always want to look at the road ahead. But one thing that I knew that she would never sacrifice was the cause for justice and the call for justice. She was one person who would stand up at any cost, and she lived a life of sacrifice. So if it meant that she must lose friends in the interim, she did that. And as you know, that happened to her in Soweto. There was a time where her neighbors didn't want to talk to her, didn't want to be associated even with the children, because she was a liability for them, because it meant that if their kids were playing with her kids, at any time something terrible may happen from the regime, and she was then taken to, solitary confinement and all that. And all of those things, as you rightfully said, they eventually harden someone's way of reacting and dealing with things. And she had a fair deal of that. But I think over time, there has been a healing process, within her. I think, a very large sector of the ANC, reached out to her, recognizing what she's been through and all that. And there were those who were calling for a non-persecution of, when she was being persecuted at some point, who said, remember that this is a woman who stood and fought a gallant fight for us to get where we are. So, she's one person that I know that, could rise above anything, and I think whatever that she had encountered over the years, she managed to, to let it subside, not that it died, it diminished, but it was still there, but she looked at the broader picture.
But also there is a level of unforgiveness when it comes to, if you take in the context of a war, there will be casualties, and there will be certain incorrect judgments made, because of the spur of the moment or the volatility of the moment in itself. Like that if we then say Winnie Mandela would always be remembered because there's that controversy or cloud over her around the TRC process, Ustombi, etc. Does it mean that we are selective as a nation as to who we forgive and who we don't?
True.
If none prior 94 have languished in jail
Cindy,
for their crimes?
You know, I have a problem every time people speak about forgiveness and not wanting to forgive, even within ourselves, amongst ourselves. I've got a problem. I always say, we managed to forgive apartheid generals who maimed and killed our people, children, innocent women. And yet, sometimes within the movement, you can't forgive one another. I don't care. I mean, you talk about, I want to congratulate ANN7 because for me to understand state capture, I understood that it went beyond the Guptas. I'm not saying it was correct when done by the Guptas or a few individuals. I'm saying it's broader and bigger than that. Why are we getting the same narrative? So I'm saying on the day Mama Winnie passed on Easter Monday, this should be a reminder to say we have to have a forgiving heart amongst us as a people to self-correct, but also to forgive without forgetting and learn from that.
Leslie, your thoughts on the issue, but you guys are so young, and I feel partly sad for you because you have the burden of now having to take the baton forward and create something out of a legacy that is still very much convoluted, that is polarized, that is not ideal for a black child to thrive. So what do we do?
We need to invoke passion. Look, when you've gone through hard times, you want to forget, you want to forget the pain as quick as you can. But sometimes it's not to your advantage, because what I think drives that passion continually is remembering the pain. And I think the Born Frees, they didn't go through this. I remember my dad saying he sneezed in front of a poor guy, and for that he was given baram claps because he was a kafir. That's it. So I had that, but my children, they don't have an idea. You understand? So I think we need to. Mandela played a pivotal role as well in terms of, because you need forgiveness. You don't want to be holding grudges as well. But when you fight racism, it shouldn't be at the expense of hating, other people, like white people. There was white people who stood with us during the struggle, and genuinely so. So it's not about so much about race. You cannot have a blanket issue against a certain race group. So going forward, it's a conversation that has to continue, and maybe have talks, varsities or whatever, any platforms, and play material, to invoke that, that passion again.
And music being the universal language. Talk us through the project now going forward. What are you guys working on? What is the role of Zinzi, and how do you re-engineer the twins?
So I think we want to...
Or a spokesperson?
No, he is. He's the president.
He is.
Yeah, well,
he's our leader.
So we want to let the family mourn, the country mourn. We want to mourn Mama Winnie, and we want to use her passing to re-inspire us, even because we were just having a conversation and her name dropped, as much as the name of Bozinzi and other family members, to say, we need to look at the kind of perhaps a reality show, get interviews by people that
there was being Mandela,
that interacted with us and that who know us. But I think that her passing should definitely inspire some action, but also conscientizing music. It's good and well and good to dance and do all these things, but I think we need to begin music that really conscientizes society. It's good to have fun, but let's also deal with issues, because of music is a very powerful tool. I couldn't agree with you more.
So the social commentary, I'm reminded now of, I think it's Sandy Somazwa in the Zabalaza album, where she talks about Nizilibele Kubani, Zarongubani, Madikizela, Kawe, Lamakawe. That kind of narrative is not necessarily... there's a commercialization of music, it's understandable, but, it also needs to tell a story.
I think one of the, the challenges that we still face. Number one is the fact that we tend to look down on our own in terms of language. We seem to think that, grasping big English words is the best way, to move forward in life and in society. It gives you a certain status, social status, which is not the case. Sometimes I just ask my kids and say, you forget that you guys are Zulu. You need to embrace your own, because you very seldomly you'll find, Caucasian people trying to learn our language, and they take pride, and whether Afrikaner or whether Italian, they take pride in their language, or French people, they take pride in their language. And we seem to think that in order for us to reach a particular pinnacle in society, we have to advance this language. And we're losing identity in the interim. Our kids today don't even know it, from grade 0 till whatever, they are fed and taught the Western ways. They know nothing about who they are.
Yeah, I mean, we have 350 years to try and catch up and redress that. But I hear you in that we need to restore and reclaim, which is ours, and not have your name changed from being a Cindy Siwe, because people started calling you Cindy Sive. And you're like, just call me Cindy for short. Because we're very compromise and accommodative.
Very apologetic, but also it starts with us. I mean, I know a lot of comrades who kids go to private schools and all they speak is English. You come home, you speak English with your child. Are you mad? I mean, and you expect the child to know your language? No, it's got to start with parenting. So people who blame kids, there's a problem because of who teaches these kids. They
Yeah,
come from homes. Yes, no, that's fine. But my kids go to a private school, yes, but when they get home, English stops at the gate. Because they speak English anyway, all day long.
Yeah, how was Mama Winnie's relationship with different race groups? Was she, not divisive, but, accommodative of all people, for those that don't know her?
Just to say that, one thing I knew about her, people don't know that she had a lot of white friends. If you remember, at Zinzi's house would have these parties, and you see her sitting down with them, laughing with them, cracking jokes, and you think, but I thought this person was very militant against these people. But then it shows you that to her, these were human beings, ordinary human beings who have no, issues. Those who have issues, she will challenge. But other than that, she saw them as human beings and nothing else. She never saw them as superior than herself or any other person.
So she was, when we talk about the land expropriation, for example, and now how it's been taken out of context in the international community, that there's persecution of white farmers. How do you guys respond to that? And how would Mama have responded to that kind of distortion of the truth?
We are always apologetic. I wish you speak more,
well,
but you're not taking the platform.
No, that's fine. Look, anytime there's bound to be change or anything, that's sort of considered normal, that is challenged, you have resistance. I think it's human nature. People don't like change. You have to, once that change comes from the heart and there's conviction, you're doing the right thing, you ought not to back off. I mean, the struggle brought us here exactly because of that. It's not, it's the end goal that counts.
Yeah.
And, yes, as we spoke, that...
Yeah, but it seems there's a meeting of minds as well.
But Cindy,
as a black nation, we are united at least in one issue, and that is around economic emancipation.
Yes, but Cindy, we needed a Madiba at the time. And then from there, we need guys like Abu Julius.
Absolutely.
We must stop apologizing for transformation, guys. So, Mandela was good for that point in time. And he had his mistakes. I, for one, I believe that in terms of the will, he could have done better or data for Mama Winnie. So, number one. But number two, we need Amadela Umzabalas. We cannot be, you can't transform a country by always smiling and being sweetheart. Let's just face it. Let's forgive, but lest we forget that we have a country to transform.
But I think
in all sectors.
Above all, what Julius is advocating now, is what the ANC has always been advocating for. And I think he's taken the narrative to another level, and one must commend him for that. You know, he speaks truth to power, he has no fear, and he's right. It's inconceivable to have, you know, the most smallest, you know, sector of society, you know, or race, you know, to have so much hegemony over land, you know, and the overwhelming majority don't have access to land, you know, and people are saying they're farmers, you know, who are black. How do you call yourself a farmer without having, you know, having land? It's inconceivable. You know, you are a farmer based on, you know, you are tilling the land. You have the land that belongs to you. So this was the land that was dispossessed from people from ages. So it's time
violence,
that, you know, and through violence, right? Violence means, so it's time to redress the past. And as Tebuko is saying, we can't be romancing these issues. You know, we need to speak truth to power and face the issue, no matter how long it takes. But the time starts now. Whether this vision is realized in the next 50 years or whenever, you know, but at least in our lifetime, we started this narrative.
Yeah. Okay. And I hope we cover the aspect of you guys moving forward. And when are you going to launch? Have you got a
We're going to come back, right?
Promotion?
You're not going down.
Just make sure it's before the 20th of August. Okay, so we have a date anytime before the 20th.
That's the first fight. We're going to come back. We'll keep
No, but siyabonga kakhulu. Thank you so much for honoring
Rest
the
in peace,
invitation.
Mama.
It's wonderful to see you. And a quick message to the family.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
All right, our condolences and tributes are pouring in from Umama Winnie Madikizela. We have a reporter, Natasha Piri, on site or on location as well. But for now, ANN7 Prime takes a break. We'll see you shortly.
Would you be prepared to take up a gun and kill someone in order to achieve your freedom?
Now I know I can.